Now that most of you have had time to see the Jesus Revolution film, I thought that I would make another quick video touching on the most controversial aspect of the film, and that is the secret life of Lonnie Frisbee, which is an unfortunate truth that left some Christians upset that Lonnie was included in the film at all, and left others upset that the film didn't show the truth behind the tragic ending of his life. Now, if you aren't familiar with the film, it's based on the true story about how the Jesus Revolution of the 70s started when Pastor Chuck Smith was first introduced to a hippie named Lonnie Frisbee. Lonnie eventually became a young and a charismatic preacher who helped bring about one of the most influential spiritual movements in American history. However, what the film didn't show was that after leaving California to work on his marriage, Lonnie was suspected of battling with drug use and homosexuality and eventually died of AIDS at the age of 43 in 1993. This became an extremely controversial fact after the launch of the movie, with some feeling like the film was dishonest for not mentioning this fact, while others were upset that Lonnie was shown in the film at all, given the last chapters of his life. However, it needs to be noted that people often expect that Lonnie was involved in a homosexual lifestyle due to his battle with HIV, but the truth of the matter is, this wasn't confirmed. Now, it is true that Lonnie admitted to struggling with drug use and immorality in his books, but we don't know for certain the nature of that immorality. So we should be cautious before spreading the narrative that he died due to homosexual acts, which hasn't been confirmed as far as I know. And it should also be noted that Lonnie did appear to be repentant in the final stages of his life as well. So now, with that being said, when it comes to those who believe that Lonnie shouldn't have been included in the film, in my opinion, this would actually be a disservice to the story. We have to remember the point of the story here. The point of the story wasn't to make anyone look good or bad, but instead, it was a true story about how God used ordinary and flawed people to bring about the Jesus Revolution, which Lonnie played a key role in. And in addition, the film only acted out what happened between 1969 and 1970, and so they stayed faithful to what happened with Lonnie during that time period. But given Lonnie's rampant, sinful lifestyle in his later years, this still makes some Christians uneasy, and at some level, I can understand why. Whenever we have a big church leader who falls into some grievous sins, it makes us embarrassed and want to distance ourselves from that person right away. We want to make it clear that they ain't on our team. Now, I understand that some Christians would rather leave Lonnie in the past as a forgotten and inconvenient part of history and think that bringing attention to Lonnie can only make us look bad and like Christians don't have it all together. But the truth is, we don't, and pretending that we do doesn't do us any favors. As a millennial, I think that I can say that it's the inauthenticity that we've seen from older generations of always trying to put on a good face that's turned a lot of millennials away from Christianity rather than towards it. I think that a lot of the talk about authenticity today is a reaction to those who always try to put on a good face, and that pushed millennials so far to the other extreme of seeing authenticity as one of the greatest traits that a person can have, and believing that they aren't sinning or doing anything wrong as long as they're staying true to their authentic selves. Of course, this isn't a good thing, but the point here is that being honest about our human struggles as Christians is something that's attractive to my generation, and it's the covering it up that left our generation untrusting of Christianity and other institutions today. This is one part of the reason for why complaints of hypocrisy are among the leading objections to Christianity that you'll hear from those that reject it. So personally, I actually appreciated the film showing Lonnie going through marital problems and battling with pride, since he showed that he was flawed in ways that a lot of Christians are. Now, to be clear, of course, this doesn't mean that we should in any way glorify sin or imply that we're somehow proud of a sinful lifestyle. Of course, that's not the point that I'm trying to make. But instead, my point is, what this does is it reminds us that in virtually every chapter of the Bible, God uses broken people to accomplish great things. Those who struggle over and over and mess up over and over, but still choose to pursue God and his calling. Now, this is hard for us to take in because it's so incredibly counterintuitive to how we think that things should be, but we can think about it this way. If God didn't use sinners to accomplish great things, who would he use? Imagine just how bad of a world that we would be in if God didn't use undeserving sinners to accomplish great and good things in the world. He wouldn't have used Noah or Moses or David or Gideon or even Peter or Paul and so on. Aside from Jesus, of course, God always uses imperfect people. And it's because of this that God can ensure that he gets the glory and not us. So, what does this mean for you? Well, it means that no matter if you're not the slightest bit great by the standards of the world, Jesus said that the way to become great is to become a servant. If you're someone that struggles with speech and articulation, God can use you as he used Moses. If the world sees you as not being strong or wise or influential enough, God can still use you to do great things, because even as Paul says, brothers and sisters, think of what you were when you were called. Not many of you are wise by human standards. Not many were influential. Not many were of noble birth. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. God chose the lowly things of this world and the despised things and the things that are not to nullify the things that are, so that no one may boast before him. So the point is, God operates different than the world does and uses people that we would least expect him to. Jesus wasn't born as a social elite who came by using power and force, but instead he was born in Nazareth and came with humility and making himself a servant. That is not how we would think from a worldly perspective how God would come to redeem and save humanity. So no matter who you are, or no matter how lowly of an earthly position that you hold, God can still use you to do mighty things. Jesus said that the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. We need more workers. So think about how you can serve God and others today, and pray for God to give you wisdom to act according to his will. And by the way, YouTube's algorithm thinks that you like this video the most, so let's go ahead and see if they're right. And by the way, what do you mean?